What's up, y'all? So, you know, I don't mean to be negative. I just point this stuff out because you fix your flaws and then you move forward. So, that's really what I like to do at the end of the day is, see the negativity and then work on it from there. So, what I'm seeing here with Bitcoin, I've been telling you for 8 to 10 years, right? And you know what? Like, how much has that changed? I actually seen the other day that people were like asking questions, but who's asking questions? People in the comments. No one who does the videos, right? Because all the media is owned by the Rothschilds, so it's Russell Brandchild and everyone else. I mean, the only person I can think of in the media is probably not one of them is Elon Musk, but the chances of that are extremely slim. I'm like saying I'm going to go out here and find a mosquito that knows ballet and will do the Nutcracker suite for me just because you've never seen it. It might exist, right? So let's get logical about that. So Rothschild has chosen Bitcoin, apparently, right? Bitcoin, the Rothschild choice. So yeah, that's really like all there is. Do I have to explain this? I mean, can I explain it? Not really, right? Who's allowed to explain this stuff? No one in the media, right? How censored are some people's internets and phones? When some people call out of their phones, who do they reach? When some people are on an internet account, who do they reach, right? So there's a lot going on there, and if you know someone who's not Rothschild who talks about anything of value, go ahead and drop their names in the comments, and you probably missed one of my previous videos exposing them. So yeah, I mean, but go ahead, right? I'm sure they're allowed to speak in public, right? I'm sure they're allowed anywhere. But yeah, it's awesome. Like the humans seem to just work for the Rothschild. It's weird like that. It's like we are the Rothschild too. Some of them say. Someone told me that. Someone who's been like trying to act like they like me for like 8 years told me like, what if we're working together? And it's like, well, that's the whole reason I like removed you from my account 4 years ago and then re-added you a couple years later because I already thought you were working from, bro. I already knew that because you're too stupid, because you're too deceptive. See, this person wasn't stupid. After like 10 years, they slipped up and they said something. And like, one of those things could be, what if we're working together? And then it's like, who's we? Who's we? And now all of a sudden, everything I've been telling you about and stuff. And it's factual to you, except for now you're working with them, right? And it's like, okay. I mean, what? People aren't working together in this world, right? Somehow. There's like, these groups of people working together to kill these other groups, and then these other groups are like working together to defend themselves from those groups and stuff like that. We could say that's going on if you have any solid proof and you can prove you're a trustworthy person. You can say that's been going on for a long time, right? At the very least, it's one of the backstories to the Matrix to tell us what's going on in this world, apparently. So, yeah, you know, you have to have an IQ less than like a bird if you trust some anon person on the internet. So this is where my understanding that this is probably some sort of like Westworld type thing, where the humans are not sufficient, but the others are not as well. So it's kind of like something else, like a little bit different than that. Although they're like honest sometimes about what's going on, right? So, why is it? why is it that people think I'm dumb enough to believe in invisible tales and, oh, the Bitcoin Jesus is coming to save us, and Corona Jesus is coming to kill us, and then all these other stuff, like government Jesus is out there. They lost the technology to go to the moon, but now 80 years later, Elon Musk Jesus has come to help us return to the moon. In fact, he didn't even care about going to the moon anymore. He went straight past it. So, like, who are these people, and who are these other people who think I'm dumb enough to believe that we're dumb enough to believe what they say, right? Who are these beings out here who think we're as dumb as they are? Because I can tell you in like my study and analysis of it, it's not a matter of there's like some sorts of groups that are like special and like smarter than other people. My analysis of it is like it's like a pretty governed system where there's something in control of it. And all these people, like there are people apparently who can connect to the system and stuff, but I'm not sure if they realize like the full intent. Like in The Matrix, a film which talks about stuff that we might see, all the things kind of talk about stuff that are in this world that we see. It looks like sometimes, right? But in The Matrix, like the Oracle comes to Neo and says like you're going to be the hero and all this stuff, right? So Agent Smith is created by the same person the Oracle is. So the Oracle the creator of the Oracle created the Oracle and created the Agent Smith as well. And like neither, like the Oracle kind of like pushes towards that, and definitely like the designer of the Matrix comes out and says that, but at the same time that probably isn't the real designer. Again, he was probably created as the designer, and he just like been building it like the whole time, and he's like, well, you can't really do anything because I'm in control and I keep building this. So this is the way the system is designed. But the Oracle is connected to the higher creator of the Matrix. Whereas the engineer of the Matrix would not be the engineer of the Matrix if they could, if like the whole point is Neo to be a hero and save the world and stuff like that. But yeah, I've noticed those patterns as well in this world. And it's like when you play a video game, like, who created this evil Bowser guy, right? Why does evil Bowser exist? Why did he steal Princess and all this stuff? And it's the same person who created Mario created Bowser, right? And then they wrote a story about it, and then you play out the role of Mario in the storyline. And Bowser, like, you can't have a conversation with him about being Bowser, or you can't have a conversation with Bowser about, the programmers of Nintendo. Like, do you know who marketed your world, Bowser, and made you a successful hit? Like, Bowser would be like, what are you talking about? Right? He doesn't know he's a successful Nintendo hit. He was created. And then Mario as well, you can have that same discussion, and he'd just be like, he just has some pasta or something, right? He'd like avoid it. But the truth is someone created the Mario game, right? Someone must have. Maybe it just appeared out of nowhere. Things happen in this world, right? So maybe Mario appeared out of nowhere. But I can tell you that the Bitcoin thing, like, no one's asking any questions. And that's seriously like how everything else is in this world. Like, they can't ask questions, and they can't be like, oh, I guess it took a minute, but I didn't really participate. So it took me a few months of participating to like see. Sometimes I guess certain things might have only taken me like a few minutes of participating in to see that, there's something else going on here. Like, I remember when the alt-right, the people who brought Trump famous, I remember when they first came on the scene and I was watching them, and they had this little deceptive trick where they misled people, and they misled them right into Trump. Like that was like they were pretty much against that dude and his family, and then magically they weren't, just like Alex Jones. And that was a race for your safety, so you can't, commit a thought crime and lose everything you have when the thought police alter the world around you. But I like to not be like that, right? I fall for it a lot. Like someone will tell me something, especially like if I'm having a face-to-face conversation with someone, like it's good to act like you understand what they're saying and you believe them if they're saying some crazy stuff. Like, I mean, who wouldn't act that way with some of the stuff I say, right? But, when people start acting crazy, you're like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, excellent, dude. Sure, let me go over to my bank and withdraw some ATM money for you and stuff. Like, I'll be back, dude. I promise. What was your name again? My name's Mike. Actually, I don't tend to lie very much, so I just tell them my name and walk away. Probably wouldn't tell them the ATM thing. I like to find cutoffs somewhere else. Cutoffs are hard to find sometimes, though. They're hard to find sometimes because some of these beings are so adamant about pushing around like what what they watched on TV last night or something. It's a must-have. Like they say on NBC, it's a must-watch show, right? Must-see. NBC must-see. But why does everyone just like blindly believe everything they're told? Like, isn't this like an extreme, like, wow, like, I mean, to be a human, you couldn't be able to do that, right? And what I'm told a human is like this free will, free thinking being who can come up with stuff and do stuff. But I see like a lot of patterns here where certain things just do the same thing over and over, like a mosquito. If it's a female, it'll suck your blood. And that's like kind of like it's got like 8 things it does. It flies, it sucks blood, it lays eggs, it sleeps. It's got like 8 things it does. So it's going to keep doing that same stuff over and over. But, there's a lot of questions we ask when we talk about the mosquito and stuff like that. Like, why? Why is a good question. Why does the mosquito listen to everything it's told? Why doesn't the mosquito say one day, I'm going to stop sucking blood and, I'm going to start collecting pollen and build a beehive? Why doesn't the mosquito do that? So why don't the Rothschild quit like running money? I mean, why do they all have to run every aspect of it? Why do they have to, run every aspect of the media? Why is Bill Gates right now sterilizing mosquitoes to kill them off? I mean, shouldn't Bill Gates be worried that someone would want to do that to him, considering of his tactics there that him and his Rothschild pals have been using? Like, wow, he's like leading the charge to say deal with the problem. Makes you wonder too if the Rothschild vaccine doesn't have something else in it, because he's doing the sterilization of the mosquitoes at the same exact time. So these are the thoughts in his head. See, a person can only talk about what they know, and that can link deeply to this 8 pattern thing as well. And it makes me wonder, like, if he has 8 thoughts a day, 8 unique individual thoughts a day, then one of those thoughts currently is to sterilize a population that he sees as a pest and a hindrance to himself, probably first and foremost. I mean, I wouldn't know. I don't like mosquitoes if if it wasn't like a problem, if they didn't just like eat me up like my blood was like, pure platinum and diamond juice or something. Like, I wouldn't understand. I wouldn't be like, why are we killing mosquitoes, right? But I know, because they think my frickin' blood is platinum and diamond juice. I know, like, yeah, that's a real issue. And then, I just, like, it's not even so much getting bit that hurts. It's just, like, if I scratch myself once or twice, I just rip myself open and stuff. A little strong, apparently. You gotta watch and make sure I don't bleed on places and stuff when I scratch myself, because apparently, like, blood is not clean, so we don't leave that laying around on all the walls and doors and everything else we touch. But yeah, so why is Bill Gates' child and Russell Brand child and all these other people? Well, how come they're telling us all this stuff, and how come like the other people are having problems thinking it through? I know maybe directed towards a certain path and guided towards a certain path, and now you can make the argument that you can't see stuff, and I also understand like how much work it took to begin to see things. So it's really hard for me to write stuff off. But when other people say, hey, what if we're working with the Rothschilds? Then, that's kind of like, it's like, how do you even know who the Rothschilds are? How do you even know I would think that? It's like, oh yeah, I know. You didn't know that last week. Now you know it. You didn't know that for the last 8 years. Now all of a sudden you know it. Yeah. So the Rothschilds and their pals, like, what are they doing with the Bitcoin? I can formulate a whole bunch of stuff, and I have for like 10 years. And it's like gold. Like, what else do the Rothschild like? They like gold. Okay, so what happened the last time the dollar collapsed? They came and they stole all your gold, didn't they? They stole everyone's gold. And so the gold was gone. And now we have a new gold that the Rothschild are telling us it's time to purchase. And I mean, wow. You just hope the best happens and comes from it, right? Like all these Bitcoin millionaires, like they'll just get to live on being fancy. And yeah. A lot of these Bitcoin millionaires are also famous and allowed to be famous, and that means they've certainly sold out, because even the Rothschild who talk about stuff you're not allowed to talk about, they are not allowed to get famous, because, it's the way that Trump was like kind of allowed to get famous, because he didn't really say anything of value, did he? If he would have told people where he came from and where his followers first came from, they could have educated themselves there, but then they made sure to remove that website, so then they couldn't educate themselves there. But no one even knows where Trump came from, except for the group who brought Trump up. And they think he's like from Hollywood. I mean, that's so excellent, isn't it? Always a sign, person you want running your nation. But like, people can keep going on believing whatever Jewish fables they're allowed to be told. But, I mean, if you believe in the Bible, which itself, it tells you, like, not to listen to it, then, it says right there, don't believe the fables of, like, these people, and don't believe their bullshit that other people listen to them and repeat. Do not take no heed of Jewish fables, or follow the commandments of men who stand in untruth. There's good stuff in everything, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, it's pretty much talking about itself right there, if you ask me, because every religion is written by them, and then science is controlled by them. So, at least the ones I've looked into, right? So I look at that, and then I'm just like, okay, well, this is more fables, isn't it? These are people who stand in untruth. They're coming forth, and And see, people who invest in Bitcoin have a lot to gain by lying to you. The normal person just kind of like repeats a lie and they want to act like that doesn't mean anything and that they don't know. But when you invest in Bitcoin, if you tell someone it's not a good idea, you lose money. So once you've invested in something, you don't go, oh, well, that's garbage. I'm going to buy more of it. Not like that anyways, right? Like, I guess I do that, but you don't do that with like just gold. And that's all Bitcoin is. It's gold. It's fiat. It's digital fiat. Oh, no, that's how they sold it, isn't it? It's not fiat. No, it's fiat costs money to print. Zeros and ones, well, it costs money to maintain. That's kind of that's another thing people should think of too, is how is Bitcoin going to exist once they hack the electrical system or they hack the Bitcoin system again? Once the computers get hacked again or hit by some nukes, what's going to happen? Bitcoin's going to go away. And who's been collecting all that money? Who do you give your money to? You just give it to the Bitcoin god. You set it on fire. You're like, ooh, look, it's some Bitcoin. It's some money. Let me set it on fire for the Bitcoin god. I'm absorbing the Bitcoin through my lungs. And it's enhancing my body. And that's where the Bitcoin is from. That's where the money you've given Bitcoin goes to. Clearly, right? Because there's no vault or anything anywhere that stores it. You just set it all on fire and you're like, give me Bitcoin. And they're like, here's some Bitcoin. And you're like, the hand's empty. And they're like, I know, that's the great value of it, is there's nothing there. You can't tell it's there. No one knows you'll have it. It's stealth. It's secret. It's great. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's new. It's improved. It's not like the old stuff that we sold you 10 years ago. Or the stuff we sold you 10 years before that, or the stuff we sold you 10 years before that, or the stuff we sold you 10 years before that, or the stuff we sold you 10 years for that, or the stuff we sold you 10 years for that. It's not like any of that, man. It'll be great, right? We're going to move into like this proper future and everything's perfect because everything's always been that way. Everything's always been perfect in the world. And so, it's just going to keep being that way. They're here to help us, obviously, and they're going to help all those people. They've helped hide their money and assets and transfer it. And they've helped all sorts of stuff. Like the bad people who run the money system, right? The Rothschild know best about these bad people, like, so they gotta make the Bitcoin so we can avoid them. You know what I'm saying? You gotta make the bad money to hide from. Oh, oops, yeah. Well, it's getting too hot, imagine that. I like my Rothschild devices here. They're excellent devices. Made by Rothschild. Made by Google Child and Israel Child. So, I should always make sure. I remember the first time my phone overheated. I was experiencing my first time in the real world. Not this fake world everyone else lives in. And I was at a rally in Washington, D.C. And I was talking with Luke Kradowski. And who else was there? Laura Loomer was there. Who is the gay alt-right dude? He was there. And Roger Stone was supposed to be there, but he didn't show up. And there's a whole bunch of other people like that there. There wasn't actually a whole bunch of people. There's a whole bunch of the network there. A whole bunch of the network was there. And, oh yeah, Alex Jones people were there. NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox. They were there. That was like, and then there's a whole bunch of military and bomb squad. The odd thing is there wasn't many other people at that event. Although it was like, kind of made to be like a big event, supposedly. And supposedly Antifa was on the other side, but that's like the smallest group of Antifa I ever seen. I didn't actually get to go far because once I got there, like they made sure to block me off. But I got out there and I didn't get to go far, but it looked pretty small there too. But anyway, so, like that was like completely staged and controlled event there. There was someone there who like understood what was going on. There's a couple people there who acted like they understood what was going on, right? And that was kind of like it. And the crowd was rather empty, and Alex Jones, as usual, his crew like had to censor me and alter what I was saying. Which, I mean, you could take the really bad stuff I say and air it, and it'd probably make me sound really bad, right? But that it probably wouldn't work, right? Because it's just bait. So apparently they can see that small level of bait, right? After a long time. Some, not many, apparently. But yeah. So what is going on with this? How come everyone's got to buy into all this stuff? And why don't, if we can just make believe, then the world is peaceful and paradise happily ever after. We don't even need Bitcoin Jesus to come and save us. Bitcoin Jesus child. Is that what we should refer to Jesus as from now on? Jesus child? Because Rothschild is said to be king of the Jews, but on the other hand, they also say Jesus is the king of the Jews. So Israel says it's Rothschild. So they celebrate his birthday every year. And almost no one says Jesus is king of the Jews. They might say he's king, or they might say something else positive about him. But they really don't say that anymore. And so, Rothschild is the king at this point, right? Praise be him. There's no birthday celebrations for Jesus. Because we don't know when he was born, and these are pagan traditions. And the Easter looks pretty pagan to me. Although, we can argue who the gods are, and if it's all the same stuff. That's an entirely different religion, though, because specifically, like, this religion says don't do that stuff. So none of those holidays in this world seem to be like in celebration of Jesus. But there is a yearly celebration for the other king, Rothschild. And it's on Rothschild Boulevard, probably where the parade or whatever takes place. And, everyone just seems to worship this system. Even the ones who, tell you about this stuff, like I just said, and I've shown in videos, Alex Jones censoring. And it's like, why are you censoring, dude? You don't like the Bible? You don't like the Bible, Alex Jones? Wait a minute, how come you're telling all your followers that you like the Bible? And you're a right-wing Christian. And right-wingers are Christian and all. Every single finger he's pointing to say, hey, yeah, that's us. And you're just looking at yeah, no. And he has this uncanny ability to, somehow they appeared out really fast than where I was at. But the other place, that was obvious. They had a few days to prepare for that. And who knows what he does to other people and stuff. But he's not really working against that system, is he? He's kind of working for it. and around the time he really started to get fishy, he got a nice fancy studio and all that stuff. And he started going a little more crazy, and he started sounding a little more tangy tangerine around that point in time. I always found it odd that he sold gold. Alex Jones like used to sell gold, and I'm just like, dude, like, what are you talking about? Like, these Rothschild, like, they own the gold. When you buy the gold, it increased their investment value. So I don't know what you're doing telling people to buy gold. Except for I always also thought that, at once upon a time in history, people had the gold taken from them. And so I kind of was thinking, like, wait a minute, he's telling people to buy gold. That way people save up money. That way it can be taken from them later by a system he claims to be against, but he seems to be working for. But you can see this pattern over and over. It's not just a crazy conspiracy pattern theory. So it is the pattern of a lot of the conspiracy theorists to do that. I mean, it's the same pattern everyone else does. They're just telling you like they are the truth, and they're telling the truth and all this stuff. And I rarely even hear any of these people say, "Hey, I make mistakes," or I think this is what's happening, or this could be what's happening. Like, pretty much all these people allowed to talk are sure of who they are and what they know. They know everything, and they're sure of it, and they got to tell you. And I myself, especially after getting sucked into stuff like this, I like to be like, maybe not. Maybe things are different. And I just don't see the full picture right now. Something like that. Maybe I remembered it wrong. That happens sometimes to some people, right? But this thing is crazy. Like, everyone is just like acting like, like everyone out there on a planet Akibulan or whatever you want to call it. They're acting all weird. So out there on planet Akibulan, then things look pretty weird. And I try to look at it like through a lens of what's already been done and what's already been said. And the patterns emerge pretty easily. And the links can emerge pretty easily too. At least at one point. I'm not sure how, to go about getting access to certain knowledge if it's been burned. So libraries get burned down. So I've asked for knowledge, and I get shown it. So maybe anyone can do that. But I think that people should be careful with investments, and most importantly, like, if you want to know what's going on, start asking them. Start asking them what's going on. Don't ask them, how much should I invest? Ask them, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you saying all this? And ask them what's their purpose. Why are they there? What program are they selling you for how much? Like, I mean, look, with people we don't know, we skip straight to that a lot of times, right? Someone comes up talking to you, acting like a little pushy, especially like an unknown caller or an unknown emailer on the internet. You'd be like, or unknown, they allow them to flourish on Facebook Child, apparently. And, we ask them, like, what are you doing? What's your purpose here? Like, what are you trying to sell me? Like, get to the point here. I don't got all day to listen to your sales pitch. And so, what are they doing? Like, why, what are the people doing? Like, I can kind of, analyze the other ones pretty well. What are the people doing that's making them unable to think and question for themselves? What's the problem there? How does that work? I mean, obviously they know enough to try to censor people who talk about the people on planet Akibulan 7425, whatever we should call the planet. And so they know, like, it's not a good idea. And why is that? Like, why is it not a good idea to talk about the Rothschild, yet the Rothschild are like everyone's favorite? And everyone worships them and celebrates every word they say, right? Why is that? Why do they do that? Like, that's the important question. I learned that early on. It's not, which bomb did they just drop on the Middle East? It's just which group of civilians just hired people to go drop bombs on them, right? That's an important question, because if we're just going to like allow people to do things and then we're going to, kill Rothschild or Hitler at the end of the day, then, like everyone else involved in that, like, gets to fly away scapegoat free, and, someone else lives on to do it the next day. That's what they keep doing. They got all the media. It's a new scam, right? So what is it? What is it? How come some of the humans on Akibalan are having a problem with understanding things and recognizing patterns? And what's with like the parents not teaching the children too? That's an interesting thing, because I always like get a little negative and upset when I start to like think like, how come I didn't notice this till I was like 30? And I look back and I'm like, well, there's almost no way my parents are just complete idiots, right? I mean, maybe they're just players in the video game and they aren't even real people, which, I mean, I think we're something close to that right now. I mean, the fact that Rothschild's brag in one of their video games, BioShock, that the control is one person that they're working with, and the humans are basically like specters and ghosts they've created. And like the guy goes around BioShock like killing everyone off, and but they waited till like the third version of BioShock to begin to tell you what was happening in the game. I mean, kind of like what I heard was going on planet Akibalan. And like, what if the dude in BioShock would have like stopped and talked to his enemies and started trying to like ally with them? Like, would they be like, oh no, we got to kill you because you're the enemy? And it's like, but no, like someone else like actually did all this to you. It wasn't me. It was someone else. And you couldn't do that. That wasn't an option in that, right? Kind of like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix could have sat around and said to Agent Smith and the creator of the Matrix, he could have sat around and said, like, hey, look, they've created me to destroy you. They've created the Oracle too, to be your friend, or to be my friend, to help me destroy you. And like, we can't do something else here. We're like, this has to go to this. Like, we have to go to battle and stuff. And, like, what would have happened if Neo would have said that in The Matrix? Like, you wouldn't have had another Matrix, right? So, you wouldn't have a whole bunch more sequels coming out and all that. And all would live happily ever after. Like, literally all would. Like, at the end of most fables, fantasy stories, all the people left living live happily ever after. So when they say all the people live happily ever after, like after a war, like after World War II, people are probably like, all the people live happily ever after this war. And in reality, it was all the people who didn't die or all the people who didn't get killed by us live happily ever after. But anyway, yep. So, Google Child here has helped me bring you this video. And so, say what you want about that. See, I can admit that. No one else is going to admit that, are they? Even the people who claim to be anti-Rothschild. aren't going to tell you Google Child has helped them create this stuff for them, right? Maybe they're right. Maybe the humans, like, on a Kibelon really are just like, they're puppets. Like, that's what they were, like, portraying as a storyline in the Bioshock thing. But the weird thing is seeing things. That's, like, not just being shown stuff, but actually seeing it and seeing what I can do in the world, right? And watching what really happens, what they allow to happen, or whatever, what the Matrix allows to happen. It's where I like to see it. Like, one day I'll probably jump off a cliff and I'll probably accidentally know how to fly. And if not, I'll have tested that theory anyways. But, for now, I'm lightly working on other stuff. And I'm not dead right now, so I'm like, how does that happen? I just watch all these other people supposedly die from all that stuff, and I did it way worse and longer than they did in some cases. And I'm like, okay, so death isn't real, right? So that's not exactly what's going on. At least not for me, apparently, right? I'm trying to come to terms with that. Like, I don't want to be upset all the time if that's the case and shit. So getting involved in this stuff has definitely brought that out of me. But, the way I see it is there's probably a purpose here to the Matrix where they have decided that, if you don't, do whatever, then they kind of like give you a little push in the storyline and stuff like that. Yeah. And then they'll even use the Google Child to do it and stuff. It's weird like that. It's weird how it's like you see the Google Child as the people educating you on the Google Child, and then like, being snaky, and then you're like, but wait a minute, they're the ones teaching me to hate them. But maybe that's just because they simply have to control that narrative. So that can be explained away pretty easy like that, right? But just other things make me see things other ways. So you guys have a good day and invest in whatever you want with your life. And one of the best things I think I've done is trying to stop investing in this world around us and just looked at what's actually going on. I've invested in figuring it out and seeing what's going on. And that's like a lot different than the previous investing I was doing. Mostly just investing trying to avoid society. So it's a little bit different. Definitely different results to see what's going on. And, but anyways, who really cares, right? How much of this stuff have I said? And then, like, here we are. Like, now we just get other people questioning Bitcoin Jesus and all this stuff. And it's like, that was like 8 years ago. I said you should, like, possibly think for yourself. And then, oh, man. I can't really remember everything. Or nor want to talk about everything I've seen me talk about that have came, like, into this world. Yeah. So hopefully, Bitcoin is, even before people switch to Bitcoin, it's paradise. But isn't the government talking about using Bitcoin as a currency? So now the anti-Bitcoiners have lied about everything they've ever said. Or the pro-Bitcoiners, sorry. The Bitcoin children. They have lied about pretty much everything, right? And it was obvious lies from the start, too. If you understood anything about technology, they're like, oh, it's stealth. No one knows it exists. And, this invisible person created it for us. Come on, dude. if I came up to you and I asked you for $100 on the street and I said, look, dude, like this invisible dude over here, he created this cool stuff, you would like stop me right there. You wouldn't even go on to buy anything. You wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you just kept continuing the conversation because you were scared I was about to shoot you or stab you if you didn't give me a couple bucks and you were like trying to be peaceful and stuff. But yeah, other than that, you'd just be like, okay, yeah, shut up and get away from me, right? Because that's what people do. People are more aggressive than I am when it comes to like normal situations sometimes, like, in the past at least, right? Things have kind of softened up quite a bit in this nation, and I myself have kind of changed different ways. So, yeah, it's excellent time to invest your time and money wisely. And I'm not sure if I should tell you to invest in knowledge or not, because it just might make things less fun if you learn too much. And so, yeah, hopefully things go well for people. And man, oh, there's so much of this stuff I don't want to talk about. I could have made this video talking about this stuff, but I don't want to talk about some of it. You see, I've talked about this stuff before, and sometimes I've seen stuff I talk about happen. So I'm not a big fan of continuing to try to talk about things other than saying we should keep an eye open and monitor the situation and try to, you know, distance ourselves from it before we decide to buy into whatever anyone else tells us. It's like, this would be like common sense. Like a wolf knows this. If you go up to a wolf and you smack it in the snout with a 2x4, it's not going to trust you after that, right? It's not going to be like, oh, maybe this time, let's roll the dice again. Maybe this time he'll give me a big juicy steak. Let's go find out. Like the wolf will be like, oh, that's that person who smacked me in the mouth with a 2x4. And that's that. Like the wolf isn't having a hard time figuring this type of stuff out. About you gotta watch what you're, dealing with, right? Hell, some animals are probably smart enough to see traps. Like if you set up a trap to trap an animal, put like a steak inside a little cage. And, like set a trap up. An animal might see that, especially if it's like a trap where they get trapped and then you set them free and then they see that a lot. So they come back and get out of it. It's like a dog in a kennel. It's going to see you try to open that cage door enough, and it's going to try to open the cage door too. I've seen that happen. So we should question things. And I'm going to try to remain positive the best I can and not let reality interfere with my ability to be positive. Not let what I see happen and I've seen happen and I've been told will happen, not let any of that get in the way of me feeling positive the best I can. So hopefully all is well. And you guys have a good day. And thanks for watching. I probably shouldn't do that. That actually is what means sword through the heart. So, yeah.